Hey, welcome to What's Happening SBC. I'm your host, Garrett. Today we will be interviewing the owner of Bellevue Meat Processing Plant, Chris Nesbitt. Bellevue Meat Processing is located in Bellevue, Louisiana, which is 10 miles north of Halton Exit off of I-20. Welcome, Mr. Chris.
Hello, Garrett. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Good. Glad to be here.
So, Mr. Chris, can you tell us a little bit about what got you into Bellevue Meat Processing Plant?
Well, I kind of got sidetracked, actually, is what happened. But I was actually going to school for mechanical engineering. I was working for my father-in-law at the time, and it was a side job. And he had just finished up a program where they actually taught meat processing in this facility. They had shut the program down and began running it privately, and needed some help. So at the time it was my girlfriend's dad, and I said, I'll help you and I'll continue my schooling at Louisiana Tech. Well, I got a little sidetracked, as a lot of young men do, and ended up staying in the business and dropping out of school, and have just turned it into something over the years.
Wow, that's a cool story. So what did you do before you met Ms Carla and got into the business?
Oh, gracious. Well, I was just like any other kid that needed to make some money to go to school. I was actually in the National Guard for Louisiana Army National Guard. I had a catering business at one time. Let's see, Garrett, and I just did odd jobs, worked at grocery stores and things like that as I was going to college. And then we got into the I went to helping him and got kind of focused on that. It was going to be something that I was going to stay with. And so we started investing in some new equipment, because at the time it had been a teaching facility, and we didn't offer a whole lot. It was mainly there just to train people in like a VOTEC type program, and so when we took it over, we decided we're going to invest in some equipment that allows us to do some new products and offer some new items and do a lot more than what the plant had been set up to do. So at that point, just like anything else, I invested, but then I had to pay for it. So then it became a lot of work, and we just had to start working.
Mm-hmm. So what all does Bellevue Meat process?
Okay, so Bellevue Meat Plant, we're a state-inspected custom meat processing plant. So we process beef and pork for the community, for the farmers. The farmers that raise these animals, they need a place to process it, to have it packaged so they can put it in a useful form, so they can take it and cook it. We also need to we take those animals and we finish processing them into items. Like with pigs, we'll make bacon and hams and smoked sausage and a lot of specialty products. We do the same things with the beef. And then what we've developed I've been there 29 years this year, and about 3 years into it, we started offering wild game processing. And that's turned into a huge part of our business, and really what's kept us there. At one point I was thinking about shutting it down just because there wasn't enough business, but now it's more of an issue of how to get it all done.
Yes, sir.
And it's worked out really good. So
I went out to Bellevue and got a few pictures. Can you explain what's happening right here in these photos? Let
me see what we got. All right, so we do beef for the local farmers. This is one of our quality farmers out of North Shreveport, Marty Woolridge. We processed some nice Black Angus beef for him, and I believe that was his the day we were unloading them.
All right, what's happening in this one?
Well, not to show you the gory part, but this is the beef after we have processed them, hanging in the cooler, and they're aging in this cooler. They're chilling and aging, and this is part of the process of where we get our meat, where we get the beef. It doesn't just show up at your grocery stores. There's a process it has to go through to get to that point. So these are the hanging carcasses, some really nice, pretty carcasses is the way we refer to them. A lot of good heavy back fat on them, a lot of good fat on them, and that's what makes that really nice steak whenever you put it on the grill, is what you see right there. Needs a lot of work done to it still. We're gonna have to break those down and trim them up. There's an aging process they go through where they hang and age, and it breaks those muscle fibers down so that the meat will be more tender. So you have 2 to 3 days there where those beef will actually drip and chill, and then another few weeks before they'll be ready to cut from that point right there.
All right. So
Okay, so this is my father-in-law. Like I said, me and him have been together Been a privilege to work with him for 29 years out there. He used to teach the class, and actually used to teach the class for BPCC. It was called Meat Processing 101. And BPCC had the program as a JTPA program that was offered out there, and he was the last instructor that they had. Now the grocery stores now, they don't get in beef like this like we do. What happens is the grocery stores get in what we call box beef and box pork and box chicken, because they have big, huge packing houses up north that'll take care of the processing and get it to this point, and actually get it to a further point and get it boxed and individual cuts. Like when Brookshire's gets in a case of beef, they may get in six ribeye loins in a case. Well, that took 3 steers to make those 6 ribeye loins. So that one box has pieces of 3 steers in it. When we process a beef, we totally do the whole process out there. So this picture right here is my father-in-law breaking down a hindquarter, and he's breaking down means he's starting to break down into the primal cuts so that we can then finish cutting it and get it packaged.
All right.
Oh, and this is just grinding hamburger. We of course, after you get through processing the beef, after you get the cuts cut out, your steaks, your roast, your stew meat, you may want some beef ribs, soup bones, whatever. You get all your cuts of beef that the customer wanted, and and most of our beef are custom cut, so we'll cut it however the customer wants us to process it. But after we get all those cuts made that they desired, then whatever's left is not wasted, but it's turned into ground beef. And we all know we can use a lot of hamburger meat in the house. That goes for everything from tacos, spaghetti, hamburgers, whatever you want to use for hamburger meat. This is the way it's produced. That tube coming out the middle right there actually filters out anything that might have been missed in the boning process and sends it to a waste container. And then that looks like it's what we call a first grind. And then we'll grind it a second time to blend that fat with that meat a little bit better. You want some fat. I do see some lean parts in there. You want a good blend on there so that when you cook those hamburgers, when you cook that meat, it's got a little moisture to it. So that's some pretty hamburger right there. Now this is one of my high dollar packaging machines. We invested in it a couple of years ago. So we put that hamburger meat. It's for packaging ground product. It's also used for some other packaging needs too. But we'll take that ground product and put it in what they call a vacuum stuffer, and it'll pull a vacuum on it, pull it into the machine. And this is a double clipper that we just bought a couple of years ago, and we had some custom made printed bags. And this is one of my employees double clipping the bags and putting it in 1 pound packages so that. So it's in a convenient package that'll hold up a long time, have a good long shelf life, because we package everything at Bellevue Meat for freezer storage. Unlike the grocery stores, they package it for use right then. So this is just part of the process and part of the packaging. And of course, we got our boxes there, and I always tell everybody, thank you for your business.
So can you tell me a little bit about the farmer to customer interaction?
Well, yeah, so we are a custom processor. So we, believe it or not, we still have a lot of farmers in the Arklatex. Now my customers come from Texarkana, Bradley, Arkansas, probably about 150, 200 mile radius. This past year I had some out of north of Dallas that had to drive over to us because they couldn't get an appointment in their local processor. We get them from South Louisiana. People bring beef up from there. We've got a pretty good radius that we process for. There's not as many farmers anymore, but we get them from a larger area. And we're kind of one of the processors that's outlived the other processors. A lot of them have gotten away from it because most of our land's been turned into subdivisions. We've got a lot more subdivisions than we have farmland, and probably a lot of your viewers there can remember when they grew up, a lot of that land was cotton fields or it was pastures, and you saw cattle, and you saw more agriculture than you see now. But now our producers that are still producing are producing on a large scale. And so what we have now that we do the processing for the farmers, but the farmers will sell their animals to the customer. They'll deliver the beef to our plant, and we'll contact the customer and custom cut it to their specifications. So Yeah, the farmer interacts with the customer. The customer interacts with us on the processing. Is the way it's typically done. Now we do also offer inspected processing, so that I have one farmer in particular we were talking about a while ago, Marty Warridge. We also inspected processing for him because he sells a lot of his meat at the farmers market, and then he has a couple of restaurants that we package his meat for so that he can legally sell that meat at those restaurants.
So the big question, how has COVID affected your business?
COVID was huge on not just my little processing plant, but on little small processing plants across the whole United States. Because what happened, if you remember, of course, COVID was extremely contagious. And I thought about that whenever they first brought that out. I said, well, in these big packing houses where most of our meat is processed, you have guys that are working shoulder to shoulder every day. And none of us want to work with all the PPE on. And so without that, they were just spreading this virus all the way through the plant. And eventually, just like you saw, a lot of those plants had to shut down, or they were so small staffed that they couldn't get the meat out that they typically do. Because there's plants out there that process thousands of head a day to provide meat for the grocery stores in the United States. Well, they went to being shut down, and all of a sudden, your people started looking for an alternative way to obtain their meat, which was to call their cousin or their uncle who raised cows, or anybody that they knew to raise cows, and said, "Hey, I want to be on that list to buy beef from you." Well, it didn't take long with us just processing, say, 8 to 10 a day, which is a bunch for us to process, even if we could get that many in. It didn't take long for us to get backed up, and it wasn't just us, it was plants all across the United States. So at that same time, I made a trip to Wisconsin, and I spoke to a man up there who's normally 2 weeks, 3 weeks behind, and he was 9 months behind. I went to North Texas and stopped in a little plant up there, and they were a year and a half backed up, and he had stopped taking appointments. So there's a lot of plants that are even at this point. We got caught up pretty much with our customers because we ramped up our volume and tried to keep up to help the folks out to get these in there and provide that service and get these beef done so people could fill their freezer up. But there's a lot of plants that just maintain their same pace, and they're just trying to do what they can do to fill it up. But so COVID really, I know it was a terrible thing and affected a lot of other places. But in our situation, we were able to keep it open, and we were able to keep providing the service and process and try to fill some of those people's freezers up who were having to go to the store and could only get one pack of meat at a time, or being rationed. We were able to process a whole beef for them, let them go home. They were able to take that stress off of themselves.
All right, so we're going to dig into a little bit more about Bellevue Meat Processing plant after this commercial.
Communication media, hands-on, yeah. No, we hands-on, give you all the tools you need to succeed. Only at BPCC. Communication media, hands-on, yeah. You know we hands-on, giving you all the tools you need to succeed. Only at BPCC. Broadcasting, TV production, wanna be on television, we can get you started. Every day's a photo shoot, got fine art photography, load the film up, also making documentaries, graphic designers, real fun, Photoshop, illustrators, characters come alive with computer animation. We got sound recording with studio production without the training. How could I record this greatest? Lights, camera, action, come alive and be creative, business of music. Maybe you could be my next agent, media for ministry, pictures where you wanna be, looking for all the majors that breed creativity. Communication media ain't for the wannabes, yeah. It's only for the gonna-bees. Got cool professors, master your craft with ease. Cool professors, master your craft with ease.
Hi, my name is Lauren Brown, and I teach graphic design and animation at Bossier Parish Community College. I first got into animation as a kid, and I never stopped watching it. And I just knew that I wanted to be around the kind of people who made this stuff, and I wanted to figure out how to make it as well. There was just this fantasy aspect to it, this playfulness. I love the escape of it. I wanted to bring that happiness to other people.
My name is Tyler McDonald. I'm studying graphic design and digital media. I am currently in a design and animation class, and I want to start my own business with animation and t-shirt design. I've been interested in graphic arts since I was about 12 years old, and I started watching a lot of cartoons. It's just something I saw as something I liked, and I've grown to like it and draw a lot of it. Taking classes here has honed a lot of my skills. It's brought them into more of a circle of where I work with them. I would recommend this to anybody trying to become a graphic artist because we have just about anything you want to study here. It's an amazing program.
We offer a lot of different courses in graphic design and animation. In graphic design, we start off with Photoshop. So you're taking things from different places and putting them together to make them look like they belong together. In Illustrator, you're creating graphics, so a lot of lines and gradients. You can do logos and layouts and things like that. Mascots, all kinds of fun stuff. And then you can put those things together in InDesign when you're looking at, okay, how do I lay out a book? How do I lay out a pamphlet? Something like that. With animation, you can take your stuff from Illustrator or Photoshop and bring it into After Effects and have it all move around. You can go into 2D animation software and either draw frame by frame, or you can sort of puppet, like a little cutout puppets where the joints move. You can also go to 3D animation where you're sculpting something, giving it color, and then putting bones in it so that you can animate it and then move around in 3D space within the computer. So there are a lot of different areas to explore.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, my name is Garrett Felicity, and this is my special guest, Chris Nesbitt. So we talked a little bit about your background, the process, and now I've heard there's a little bit of history behind Bellevue Meat. Can you tell me about the facility before it became Bellevue Meat?
Yeah, it's actually got a lot of history behind Bellevue Meat, and I think I alluded earlier a little bit to it. I'll try to go through it pretty quick, but the actual facility where the plant's located, the plant was built in 1970, maybe 71, but before it was a meat processing plant, it was a Nike missile base. And the missile base was built there during the Cuban Missile Crisis, from what I understand, and this is before my time. But during the Cuban Missile Crisis, we had 2 Nike missile bases in the area. One was on Missile Base Road in Stonewall, one was in Bellevue, and they were there not only to protect Barksdale Air Force Base, which would be the first thing, but the Louisiana Army Ammunition Plant, which is located in Dixie Inn, which is between Halton and Minden. And that was a large target for an attack at that time. So we had the 2 missile bases. Pre-military, it was the land itself is where the old Bossier Parish County seat was located. And although Bellevue's kind of a forgotten area, back then it was called Society Hill when it was the Bossier Parish County seat. And that was one of the original county seats for Bossier Parish, if I know my history right.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit about how, you told us a little bit about you've improved your technology in the plant. How is the industry involved with meat processing?
Oh, the industry's evolved tremendously, just as if cars have evolved so much from a Model T to a Lamborghini now. The industry's evolved. We have multi-million-dollar packaging lines and processing lines that have developed that are automated and have, not us, but the industry itself has plants up in the central United States that provide the majority of the meat for the nation and for overseas. But we have huge plants that process a lot of this meat, and just a few, but they're huge, and they're not measured in square footage, but they're measured in acreage under roof to tell you how big they are. So these are huge facilities, and they process the majority of our meat. But that's also what got us in a bind during the COVID crisis, in that we ended up referring back to the small plants to try to supply some needs for some meat for people to consume during the COVID crisis when those plants had to shut down. Because I think we learned a big lesson there that we didn't need to have all our eggs in one basket. We needed to have alternate options for processing, and we didn't need to have everything done in those central locations like that, in those single locations.
Wow. So as hunters, we know deer season is about to be in full swing. Can you tell me what Bellevue looks like during deer season?
Well, Bellevue's still there because of deer season, because deer season's been so good to us, because I process so many deer, and we have found a niche in the processing business for our plant itself. We're located in a good area. We're located in a prime area. I've always struggled to do a good quality job and good quality product for our customers, and I've got repeat business plus some every year. We had a constant increase in business since 26 years ago when I first started. I haven't had a year that's worse than the previous year. We always increase in business. People talk about us, but Bellevue Meat Plant looks like Walmart at Christmas during deer season. It's getting to be kind of hysterical how many cars come in and out of there and how busy it is at certain times. And at some points we even have to turn business away because we have so much. But we try to take care of as many customers as we can with the facility that we have, and I'm constantly doing modifications to it to try to take care of those customers. But we're known for making we're making multiple great smoke sausages. I have 2 nice smoke houses. I've got nice equipment, and I've got some background that I've some educational background where I've traveled to some food processing colleges over the years and learned more about processing, learned more about sausage making, and we can make a good quality product that I can take somebody that's been that's had a bad experience with some deer processing, and I can process one for them and show them what we can do, and they can taste what we do, and it's all in the taste at Bellevue. Once you try it, you're going to like it, and once you like it, you're going to come back. And that's all it typically has to do, is just let somebody try something that we make, and they keep coming back. And it's been good to me, but deer processing has been a big thing for us.
Wow, I've been up there, and it's hard to get in sometimes.
Very.
There's so much traffic, but it's so worth the wait. So do y'all do any kind of work with Louisiana Wildlife and Fisheries?
We're constantly working with them. I try to work with them any way I can. Louisiana Wildlife and Fisheries, I allow them to come out and do testing on the animals, because we're a great location to check animals. The biologist with the Department of Wildlife Fisheries is constantly trying to make sure that we don't have any diseases that may be infiltrating into our area, and anything that's going to make the animals sick. You know, these are wild animals, but they still, we have to watch those animals to make sure that they don't carry any diseases. And harvesting deer is not just something for consumption. It's a management program. People need to harvest deer, or we'd look like some of these towns up in the northern part of the country where the deer and the elk and the moose are running rampant in their towns and in their streets, and then they're falling in their swimming pools in the backyard because they have so many of them. We need to harvest deer. We need to keep a balance in there and a check in there. But that meat is, I don't ever see it getting wasted so much. So it's a good thing. We need to control the amount of animals in there. We need to control but we also have some good programs to put that meat to good use. Now, I told you about one of the programs that we do and have done, I'm guessing 17, 18 years now. It's been a while, but it's called Hunters for the Hungry. And y'all have heard about Hunters for the Hungry. It's big down south. We are one of the first original processors in northern Louisiana for the program, and we have some sponsorship that helps me to cover the cost. But the hunters, they go out and they manage their property. They take these deer and harvest these deer, and then they bring them to us at no charge to the hunter at all, and he can drop that deer off, and then we will process it into ground meat, which then is used at local shelters in this area, including the Shreveport-Bossier Rescue Mission and other locations that feed people a hot meal on a cold night.
So is there any other, you told us about Hunters for the Hungry, and I think you mentioned something about Wounded Warrior.
I do have a program I'm really proud of that we've been doing probably for the last 10 years. I should have my dates together, but something like that. But Barksdale Air Force Base has their own Wounded Warrior program, where there's a group of guys from Barksdale who have put together some funding, and they've got donations, and they will fly. Barksdale's program is strictly, or has been strictly, from what I understand, the EOD soldiers. EOD is Explosive Ordnance Division, and those individuals got injured doing their job. So what has happened there is these guys are flown out of these hospitals and brought to Barksdale Air Force Base, where they can get away from some of their troubles and experience that hunting and it's I'm proud of the fact that we're able to do that for them.
So y'all process a lot of animals. So is there anything challenging about? I know you said something about tedious. It's very tedious. Any animals that are very tedious to process?
Well, you asked me about being tedious. The animals are all basically the same. Smaller animals are probably more tedious than larger animals. Larger animals, the actual meat processing itself happens a little easier and a little bit quicker, and it's more defined. But I'd also we had talked a little bit about the sausage making, the smaller things like the snack sticks and such. That's a little bit harder, a little bit more time consuming. The packaging of those smaller items is a little bit harder to do. At Bellevue we do a lot of volume, and so probably the most tedious thing is just what I do best, which is keeping up with everybody's orders and making sure that they get them back, and keeping everything under control, and putting out a quality product, moving the volume that we're doing and producing the volume that we're doing.
So all those products, do y'all sell any of those products in your store?
About 6 years ago, we added on to the front of the building, built a little small retail building that I tried to make look something like a little Bass Pro. And when you come out there, you'll see what I'm talking about. I've got a nice little building that I see you've got some pictures there. So we've got snack sticks in these pictures. We've got summer sausage, salami. We've got some jalapeno cheddar summer sausage. Some of the same things that we make out of wild game, we also make them out of beef and pork and sell them up front. Now, years ago, I used to have my own sausage in Brookshire's, Albertsons, Kroger, Super Ones, and it was called Butcher's Best, and it was pretty popular and it was doing well. But I got into high volume deer processing, and I just couldn't do both. So we pulled it out of the grocery stores, and we just started making it for ourselves, and we sell it there in the plant. So you can still buy Butcher's Best. It was made by me at Bellevue Meat Processing, but we only sell it at the plant. But I also sell some other items. Starting this year, we're doing some kind of authentic Louisiana type stuff, some stuffed chickens, some stuffed pork loins, stuffed tenderloins, stuff with boudin or stuff with cream cheese and spinach. A lot of new items.
Wow, sounds good.
It
Makes me
is.
hungry. So, is there any way they can find you on Facebook, Instagram, places like that?
My daughter, we're a family business, and we all do, and the whole family works in on this. My daughter has recently kind of picked up on that social media, and she does a lot for me on social media. My daughter and my wife both. But you can find us on Facebook for sure, and just Bellevue Meat, and it'll link you to everything you need to. Plus, we have a nice website.
Alrighty. And so as you see there, your hours are now Sunday through just 7 days a week, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m.
That's correct.
And then in Bellevue, Louisiana, that's the best place to find you.
Yes, that's
Okay.
where you will find me.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chris, thank you for joining us today.
Man.
And thank you for watching What's Happening SBC, and we will see you next time.